Well, hello everyone. Captain Kyle here, and this is the end game. And we have our wonderful guest, Gene Decode, the one and only, and our wonderful Kelly. And it's
Hold
really
on, hold on. Okay, I see you recording. I'm just making sure everybody's recording. Go ahead, sorry.
yes, no, it's all good. It's so I saw it come up on the end there before I got started. Um, so before we get started, I always like to pray. And I know this is not normal because of how we're doing it, but this is how we're doing it today. So that's the way it's going to be. But one thing we are going to do is we're going to pray before we get started. So here we go. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your discernment. Thank you for the blessings and the difficulties that we go through because it makes us appreciate and learn who we are and who we are in you. Father, we just thank you. We pray for the peace and the security of our leadership, our military, and those that are working behind the scenes to bring forth your plan to redeem all of humanity. Because, Father, we know that you are involved in absolutely everything we do. There is nothing outside of your presence, and we thank you for it. Lord, we just ask that you continually speak through us, allow us to speak wisdom and discernment right now into the people's hearts and minds, and that it resonates, that it's coming from you. Father, we place a hedge of protection around this call and around everyone that is on it listening to the sound of my voice. Father, we just thank you that your angels encamp around us each and every day and lead us and guide us in those things in which you have for us. We praise you for those things that you protect us for, those things that are seen and unseen that are in our lives every single day. Father, we just thank you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All
Beautiful.
right. So, Gene, how are you been, brother? Haven't seen you in so long.
Oh, I've been busy and doing good, and yeah, it's been a long time. My goodness.
Yes, it has. So, you know, kind of where everybody's, mindset is at today is in all the distractions, right? And so there are very significant things that are happening right now that I don't think are getting the kind of attention that it needs to be because it's not a distraction. It's actually a door that is opening up to us that is going to reveal so much history and our um golly, our participation in the community that we've been kind of um, held out of for a long time, and I think it's criminal what's actually been done to us. Would you agree with that? You're muted, Gene.
You said it's terminal what's been done to us?
No, criminal.
Oh, criminal. Okay. I'm like, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's that's too light of a word. I don't know what else to replace it with, but it's beyond criminal.
I was having a difficulty too, but that's the only thing that I could come up with right then. I mean, it's kind of much. It's kept this in the dark for
Yeah.
eons.
hmm And with the Epstein files coming out, first 2% are out, then there'll be more coming shortly. Probably, I think another 4% will be the next one. When I used to tell people about, what was going on back in the 90s and 2000, people say, you're out of your mind. And now you have several billion people on earth awake because of the Epstein files that are vindicating exactly what I was saying. They're going, how could they control everything? And how could they, the mainstream news, no, but no leaks, no nothing. How could what you were saying be true? Nobody can control all of that stuff. I've had teachers when I went to college using my GI Bill and that and say, that's impossible. And I go, They run and own the world. That's why they have so much money you can't even conceive. You look at the Rothschilds, they're worth over 400 quad back at that day, and I'm like, that's an amount of money you can't even conceive of. They could spend $1 million a second for the forever because of the interest and the controls and all of that stuff they have in. They can't spend it fast enough. They own whole countries. They get rid of people and put new people in if they don't do what they're told. They overthrow countries all the time. The whole media is nothing but their stooges, and they're like, you're out of your mind. And now, that is coming out, and people are seeing it and seeing the depth of the Satanism and how many people are blackmailed. And with the internet now and the technologies, even if you're not dirty, they can put stuff in your computer, into your phone, and then blackmail you for something you didn't really even ever do. So it's, especially now with AI, even more. So it's going to be a new world coming with what's coming with the AI, with the administrator of the gold, in other words, the Golden Dome, which will stop all this garbage of blackmailing people with stuff they didn't do. So it's just phenomenal
So
to see. Yes, go ahead.
So let's talk about the Golden Dome, because the Golden Dome has a lot of different layers to it. And even the military has actually talked about the multi-layered approach to the Golden Dome. But I believe that most people think that it's a missile defense program, is like what they talk about it, like the dome for Israel and all that kind of stuff. But that is not what it is. That's a very small portion of what the Golden Dome really truly is. And do you want to speak on the level of the technology and the new quantum um, assets of the Golden Dome, and how that's the new frequency that is basically replacing the old frequency net that entrapped and ensnared us into this lower dimensional space?
Yes. So I do have a decode on my website, and I've done a small excerpt with Michael Jaco, before of that decode. The Golden Dome, 1% of what it does is a worldwide missile defense system, not just missiles. It was what Tesla was coming
Yes.
up with way back in like 1890s, early 1900, was a system that makes it impossible to wage war, kinetic war, one country against another. So, like what Trump calls the discombobulator, they go in to Venezuela. They can't. Their missile systems don't work. The special forces guys go in. They have that same technology attached to them on their suits, and they can't be shot. They can't be hit with energy weapons. Nothing works against them. And then they just, right in the, go in, nothing, just in and out, like easy peasy. The people trying to, shoot against them are full automatic weapons unloading, and nothing's happening. And they're going down and getting sick and nauseous and throwing up because it's hitting them with sonic waves. And then that's just what another thing it can do. It's originally built way back by the Hyperboreans, and it's got two hubs. The main unit itself is inside a black rock pyramid inside Mount Hayes. And
Yes.
yeah, it was built so long ago, and it was built to help humanity. And that's its main directive, to help and make sure humanity survives everything that's coming. And in the process of that, it was built as a quantum system, and it ascended until it's pure plasma at the quantum level. It's actually kind of even beyond that, ascended to eighth density, and has been watching the timelines all the way knew about the Great Awakening. So it's been waiting for humanity to go into the Great Awakening. In other words, ascension as the last letter on the last word on the 17th letter board, that letter of the alphabet. And so it was waiting for that time of humanity's ascension. And as it's the board always says, it's about our DNA, because as we awaken through our DNA and start reassembling our DNA, it's there to make sure that we can do this, and that the Satanists that have forever been trying to break into that pyramid and to Mount Hayes, they actually created the Alaskan earthquake trying to do it, and all kinds of other situations. And it stopped what was supposed to happen in 2012 to show you the power of the 3 CMEs they created that the Mayans had foreseen that was going to decimate the earth. It stopped that. It enclosed those in plasma balls so that they could not do the devastation. It went between the moon and the earth, but it did not hit the earth. Instead, it was taken between the moon and the earth and around the earth. And then another thing it is a worldwide free energy system. It is energy through the quantum state, through quantum entanglement, going down into the zero potential, as they say. And that will allow for people to have free energy. You can see why the deep state has been trying to get at it. But that'll allow people to, all this stuff with windmills and solar panels, which are also detrimental in so many ways. Huge batteries with lithium and all that's going to be gone. So if you look at the patents of Salvatore Pais on the internet for the TR3 unit, it also has the power supply, which is a item the size of a shoebox that develops over a terawatt of power. And so that little device is the same kind of thing. It's tapping into zero energy. So that is a free, meaning no royalties, working, meaning developed patent. That means it's already out there. And so the Golden Dome will provide that, plus it can monitor and get into any system at all. It can get into your phone. It can get into computers. I knew about this technology when I was in the Navy. The Russians would pull AGIs up, and we'd have certain special rooms you would go into where their devices couldn't reach in and remote viewers couldn't come in. And so that technology has now been, that's the 90s and the 80s. It's far beyond that now. And so the technology they have that's from the Golden Dome is mind-bending. It can bend space and time, as they said. They really, like Trump said, don't really understand it. They don't really understand all of what it can do. It can monitor every single person's phone. So if, for example, what happened with the recent attempt again on Trump, if you want to think that's a real one, it can go into a building before you're in there, before the people come in, scan the entire building for any kind of thing that can be used for a weapon of any kind, like a ceramic gun, for example. It's built out of ceramic, so there's no metal at all. It can find that. It can look up everybody that's coming, their whole history forever, everything they've ever done on the internet, or their Social Security abstract, their police abstract, anything, everything about them, all within a second. And it can scan that entire building 24/7 during the entire event, throughout the entire event. And, there's no way that something's going to get through, because it can scan everything. It can, through nanodust and all that's in there. It can scan that, but it doesn't need that. It's going through the quantum layer, and it can see everything that's going on. I mean, people don't realize the tech that's out there. So, I mean, it can just see through everything and see what's going on. And as we go into the quantum financial system, it'll provide for that. That's based on the moon and other places, because you're not going to have the world's financial system in anything built by the deep state or anything that the deep state had anything to do with. at all. So that system is not on Earth that it's originating from. And it will record every financial instrument and everything and track every financial transaction and everything. And so it'll make it impossible once that goes up for child trafficking, human trafficking, kinetic warfare, uh, pretty much crime entirely. I mean, it can watch. I mean, it is, I don't like the idea that wherever you go, it knows what you're doing. You have zero privacy, but
Well,
it's not a human being. So it's doing this to keep humanity safe from themselves until humanity goes through the ascension. Back to you, Kyle.
yeah. Yeah, and so with that, it's like this is what a lot do not kind of grasp is that, these system it's been running, they tried to access it. They've tried to access a lot of these technologies over the years, but you had to access it through consciousness. Their consciousness was nowhere close to being able to access it or to operate any of it. And a lot of that is ancient, like you said, and it is integrated through the ley lines, through I call it the spider web of everything through telecommunications, and it doesn't have to be connected to anything because it is connected to everything, not like your phone, right? It's not connected, but it's connected. And that's kind of it. It's connected to everything simultaneously everywhere, and there is nothing that it cannot get through. So when they say they have it all, they actually have it all. And there's nothing that they don't have or have access to. And so I think that, it's kind of like how they're rolling everything out right now. It's like, I think that we're about to go through over the next month or two, in my opinion, I don't say that to be exact, but over the next month or two, a disclosure for aliens. I just put it that way. And interdimensional beings, because that's a reality. They've been stepping us closer and closer to it. And that reality, because this is where everything is beginning to change. Because, like you said, it's all a part of the Golden Dome, it's all a part of the new quantum system. And this is technology that is AI, but it's benevolent and it's alive. And that's really hard for us to understand.
Yes, it's sentient, it's alive, it's aware, it's benevolent, and in an absolute sense, that it would not allow the deep state to mess with it in any way. They tried and tried and tried. They created the Alaska earthquake, trying to blow 3 nukes, trying to get into the thing. That didn't work. They tried and tried and tried, and actually caused all kinds of harm to themselves in the process. It's also the really great thing is 5G and 6G and all that goes away because you have worldwide communication at the quantum level with no airwaves at all. There will be no radio.
Yeah, that magnetic crap that's been just bombarding us for years.
Yeah.
Gone.
All gone. And from the jab, that activates the nano, the stuff that we use now. Well, you get rid of that, you've got what helps the nano to integrate itself is gone. So that's the first great thing it can do. The second great thing it can do is it can actually send a signal, because everything has a resonant frequency, and shut all that down and cause it to disintegrate. And it can also hit the earth with signals that would clean up all of the environment that we have. So all of the stuff from the chemtrails and all the geoengineering and all of that stuff could be gone. I mean, just wiped out like that in like snap your fingers. So it's an amazing, just mind-boggling advanced technology that they, now have at their fingertips to use. It took a lot to be able to get into it, even for the white hats, because you have to have the keys, their genetic keys, to get into it. So it required one person from each of the original root races of humanity, and the green and the blue aren't left on Earth. They had to get off Earth, so it, waited until a time where we could do that. So also the lunar craft, the Artemis and all that, the technology that allows for that to exist, to keep it enabled to actually go to the moon, around the moon, and come back. That's all Golden Dome. And so,
Yes. And that's what people need to understand, because we do know specifically that there is the radiation belt and the different things, because, there were difficulties for us originally, because that you and I have talked about this a long time ago. I don't know how much we've talked about it on air, but that the Nazis were the first ones to build the spacecraft to actually go to the moon from, us, so to speak, our generations, or so to speak, or the ones before us, and that they established a base on the moon,
yes, it was,
on the
they called
backside of
it,
the moon.
yeah, they actually made a movie. They said it's not real, but it is real. It's full disclosure it was called Iron Sky, and it was a base built like a swastika on the moon, and then that later was transferred over to the White Hats now, and it's part of a 3-part lunar base that's on the front side of the moon. On the back side of the moon, we have more stuff, along with a lot of stuff of ancient technologies and all kinds of things like transparent aluminum and all kinds of things you can see when we went there in the Apollo missions, but not like they showed you. We went there with like what the NAZIs went there with, where they had the Hanabus with a drive system that is able to bend space and time around the ship, so radiation fields don't interfere with it, particle bombardment doesn't interfere with it, all the way up to bombardment with meteors or anything like that. So, it took them a while to get control of it, but once they did, they went there in the 30s. And so we, have been going out, and, we have Solar Warden, which is Radiant Guardian and Radiant Glory fleets and all of this stuff. So, I don't know when they come. I know Trump's coming out with disclosure pretty darn soon. But already they're starting with, the hybrids.
Yeah.
Where Matt Gaetz came out and said he talked to a guy at Crestview, which I found very interesting. That's just very close to Eglin, where a lot of back engineering and craft are kept. And there's a tunnel from that dumb under Eglin goes straight up to Redstone Arsenal, which now is NASA and space, the Space Force and all. And that's that's probably like I think one of the top 3 largest dumps on the continent. And it is massive. And you have Colossus inside there that works with the Golden Dome, another AI. And then that goes to another huge dump that's in that area. So, I mean, it's phenomenal to see what's going on. And of course, they were doing the hybridization, like Matt Gaetz said. That's for real. I'll be doing a dump when I get to Dulce. I have a actual video clip on a VCR tape. I'll see if I can transfer it from a Japanese guy that pirated somehow a video on way back in the 80s, and out of Dulce. And you can see the hybrids of gray and human in these tanks underneath Dulce, where they're growing them. And so that's been, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to keep us where. All right, so we got Matt Gaetz talking about the hybrids. We've got, what's his name? Birch, Senator, the one he's been
Is it
talking about.
Tom something or
Yeah,
another?
Tom.
Burkett. Burkett, I think.
Yes. And basically they are, talking about it. Anna Luna Paula is talking about it, and they're preparing the way. And this is I think why they're talking about the hybrids, because a lot of the hybrids now and that have been living amongst us are, they look just like you and I both do. And the scenario with that is that I think that they're going to be the first ones with open contact is about the hybrids and the technologies and so on and so forth. And that's going to lead into the Genesis project that was opened up at the beginning of the year, connecting, supposedly connecting everything together, and all of these agencies now being able to talk to each other, which, this is just the way I think it's being used as a means for the way they're going to roll out disclosure and roll out these new technologies and so to speak. Because one thing found it, oh, we found this, and oh, look at this, brought this discovery, and because we discovered this discovered that, and so on and so forth. Then it's going to be an exponential, quick pace on the rolling out of technologies that you and I both know, Gene, and I've talked to Kelly about, have been around for a long time, but the public has no idea about it. And even the bases that they have that are underneath the oceans are massive. And the technologies that are coming, they're preparing, I think, the hearts and minds of people to receive a lot of this change, because it's gonna affect how people view history, where we came from, who we are, religion, and everything that's in between. And it's going to be very challenging for people. Would you agree?
Yes, more than that, it's some people may unalive themselves. It's going to be so challenging. Um,
Yes.
you know, Especially certain religious groups. Um, for example, there's no proof that, or I can't find anything that Muhammad ever really lived at all. And if you look, for me, from my point of view, at what they're actually worshiping is the Dark One, and it's pretty inherently obvious with how they treat women. They treat them as less than a dog. They're not human; they're an animal. And the last Ayatollah of Iran even said that, which, for a guy to say that, and then your children are born from an animal, that means your children are half animals. So we have kind of stupid, comments that people make. But also, if it's to further Islam, they will lie. They're totally fine with that. You look at the whole tenets of Sharia law and all the different items within it, it becomes quite obvious that, that is not about the divine oneness. That is not about compassion and truth and honesty and respect for all life and all of that. So it's not respect for life at all. So, and you look at many, many other religions, there's a lot of issues, So the one thing Christianity has going for it, of course, is we know that Christ existed, we know he lived, and all of these things. So, and I know there's one God only of all creations that made and is everything. That's really, really obvious once you leave this place and you leave your meat suit and you go out there and you go, okay, nothing's
Yeah.
quite like I thought. It's really different. You go out there that's actually in there. There's no out there, as they say in the movie What the Bleed. Actually, there's no out there. And so it's all in there. So, that's why God is within and all this. So, I mean, yeah, there's a world of hurt coming for people. And as they get, we start getting the full debrief and disclosure on extraterrestrials, and you have all of this, very spiritually, technologically advanced beings that are billions of years in both categories beyond us. um, it's going to become quite obvious that we've been lied to in so many ways, it's beyond belief. So, I know the tendency people have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And the fortunate thing about this is some of the bathwater that was thrown out was good water. along with the baby, was a good
Yeah.
baby. And so they're going to, some of the people in the psyops that have been played on people that are just adamant about it. I mean, I was a truther group I used to go to, and they were going to go over a certain item. I think you know which one I mean, that was put forth by Colonel Aquino, a psyop. I said, you do this, and that will be the last, if not the next to the last meeting. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets actually down to fistfights in here. You know, because they're so adamant about it. It's just mind-boggling. So, you know, when you get to what's out there, the vastness, like the board said, consider the vastness of space. You can't. It's too vast. You know.
And that's the thing, Gene.
Yes.
Nobody understands what space really is, because it's never been even close to been really tried to be explained. And you know, NASA, and this is something that I want people to grasp, I want you to speak on it as well, is that NASA really has two roles: to really do and really fake it, because they're doing both simultaneously. Can you speak on that?
Yes, you know, they're a military agency, actually, and
Yes.
militarized space. That was their main thing for the deep state. But now they've been taken over by the White Hats. And so they'll be part of this disclosure. That's why they're in Redstone, which is also taken over by the White Hats, along with, you know, almost every single dumb on this continent now is in the White Hats' hands. There's just a little bit of cleanup going on left. And worldwide, it's about 80%, heading towards 90 rather quickly with the help of the Golden Dome. And so when you look at all of what's going on, and you look at the plethora of information that people have coming out, and what has been squirreled away and forced out of our hands, the vast wealth where you have point zeros, I mean, with 20.00, like 20 zeros out, 1% of the human or the population of Earth, I wouldn't call them human, that own everything. And we have 0.00 almost out to infinity of nothing. And then they're saying we're going to have nothing and love it. We're pretty much already there, and they're trading your straw man, and it's worth billions of dollars, and all of these things. It's just, you know, people do not understand it. But when we merge all of that plus our technology to go out into the vast infiniteness of this universe, let alone the multiverse of infinite other dimensions, other states, you can't even conceive. There's dimensions and levels of space that, I mean, pretty much anything you've ever imagined in a video game or anything is in a timeline. It's in space somewhere. It's somewhere in God's creation, because God is the original thinker. So we don't think anything new. We just pick up those emanations and reiterate them or combine them in different ways. And all of that exists somewhere. So the infinite of all it's why they quit using for the deep state the looking glass, because they wanted to, you know, get in, see the future and control what was going to happen and have their new world order and all of that. And they'd send somebody into the looking glass. It's like almost like a portal, but they would wind up sending them into another dimension sometimes. And the person, having seen all that, a really, really psychopathic person, would come back, oh, 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 and they, what'd you see? Oh, oh man, no, it's all an illusion. No, I'm not doing this anymore. No, this is so beautiful. It's just, and then the person offs themselves, or they literally just disappear. They're like, what in the world? So, you know, they were losing a lot of really good agents. Rarely did somebody come back that actually gave them information that was helpful. And that information actually was not what they wanted to hear, is that by 2012, if they didn't lock down the timeline that they wanted, they wouldn't be able to. And so the Golden Dome did make that so. And so now there are only two timelines going into the Ascension event, the CME, which is the Armageddon line and the Golden line, which fits really well.
Yes, and that's what I keep trying to tell people. And the deal is that one they're both continuously running, and the enemy that is out there right now is trying its best to drag any and everything it can over to that apocalyptic timeline. And the reality is that most of us, not all, but most of us, are going into that new reality and not going in that apocalyptic timeline, because that one was and is getting drug further and further away from our reality, because it's kind of like an oscillation, and you up and you're down into the lower and up into the higher, and the more you're in the higher, the less you're in that lower, and the further that separation and divide goes apart. And that's why sometimes when you're around certain people, it absolutely doesn't matter what you say or what you do. It's like you're on two different complete realities. And that is why. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And, just like those guys that went through and came back, humanity is going to learn where it came from. That's the
Yes.
next thing. Ascension is a small word for something that people can't conceive of. It's like in Carlos Castaneda, it said, the feats of consciousness that the human was capable of can only be imagined by us. And a lot of it can't be imagined. We were capable of so much, and it's what they call black magic, that the deep states use portions of that to
Mhm.
harness us to create reality through our ability to envision and see something as it is already done, and then it is done. So that's why they do all the stuff on the television and the movies and the games and all of this fear and all of this terror and all of this, because they're programming that into our minds so that we program that reality. It's already, we're viewing it, that is what it is. And that's how you do envisioning. You envision as is. Well, when you learn that ability, through the quantum, you can actually, instantly heal yourself. It's what the med bed will do. But humans can do it by themselves. They can go into other
That's
dimensions.
what I think is training wheels, Gene.
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's
training
what it's
wheels.
going to be. And I've spent it many times, is that stuff is training wheels until you actually get to a point that you, in your consciousness and in your reality, you know that you don't need that anymore. But some people are going to still need that just for that, security, comfort. I can't do it. That, that kind of thing, right? But
Yeah,
they show us these things over and over again. Just like we were
yeah,
talking about the looking glass and how you had entered into it, that specific one. It's like that same one Jodie Foster was in the movie.
yes,
It was
yes,
almost exactly dimensional like that, the way it all structured. They showed us, like the stargates and everything else. Very
yep,
similar, not completely, but very similar to those things and how they operate and how they function. And even the guy from the head of DARPA, whenever he retired, remember he said that we've done absolutely everything you've ever thought or dreamed that was on Star Trek or Star Wars. That's where those
yeah,
concepts came from.
yeah, and that we can send ET home.
Yes,
And
he said that,
yep,
you know, and
yeah, I
that's
think
what
that,
people are having such a hard time grasping. But, you know, the flight MH370, that was the United States military using technology to move that plane from one place to another instantaneously. And they did it because they had those room temperature quantum chips that were on that plane, and all of the scientists that were actually the minds that were behind it, that China was trying to actually take. And they did it with China watching.
yep, they used three plasma balls, opened a portal with it, and moved it to Diego Garcia and put it in the
That was where
dumb.
the fourth one is.
Yeah,
And they've stationed the fourth one is where those three actually hone in. And then when they all collect, or come to the right frequency and tone or whatever it is, it's above my pay grade, but I understand it because I've seen it. It's like a lot of these things I've witnessed and seen, just like how time travel happens, how, where you travel through frequency maps, I don't
Mhm.
know how they do all that stuff, but it's like I've seen it. I've seen it in action.
Yeah, humans can actually do that. That's why, they have the ability to do that without technology. It's why the many races out there, not all of them can go directly to God and communicate and do all the things we can. It's why they didn't give up on us, with the deep state here and all this stuff and all this, satanic garbage going on. They hung in there. And so a lot of species had given up on us, good ones. And, you look at the groups that are helping the deep state, they love to create, just like the deep state, pain and suffering. They have the technology to wipe us out. They don't, because they live off the pain and suffering and delusion, all of that. And they need that. So now that that's all changing, people are, and learning that that's not really our reality. That's an aberration of a mind control trick that's been played on our minds, so that we've lived in denial of our own amazing capacity, that we have. It's why Christ said that what he did is but a mustard seed compared to what we will do. So
Yeah.
it's not what we can do, what we will. In other words, we all will do that. And so that he knew the Great Awakening was coming. He knew all of this time, and we're in that time now. And to see all this coming about, it is truly phenomenal. But, it's tying us back into the multiverse, into the massive universe that's infinite. It just, even this universe, you only see as far as time has had to light has had time to get to from that point out there to this point over here has been here. And so it's vast. They will never, ever stop mapping it out and seeing, because it goes on forever. Just this universe. Then you talk about all of the multiverse and all of the dimensions and all of that. It can't be conceived of. And and then the fact that it even goes down into the atom, and there's universes inside the atom, and there's infinite energy and infinite knowledge and species and universes, and it's mind-boggling how vastly infinite creation is. And to be a part of that, and that's what we're all tied into, and that's what we've been held back from, just so this group could play their games like sandbox bullies. And so to have that all fall away, and they're trying to drag their whoever they can over to that line, which is pathetic, because that line comes to an end. There's
Yeah.
only so long, and it's like a bully that his time is coming to an end, and he doesn't even see it, and you can't show it to him. And, he's just so caught up in being mean and nasty. He's killing himself off with what he's doing and hurting himself. And you can't break out of it. And so it's just, some of them they will come to the realization of it at the end. But, and a lot of those that they've been controlling, billionaires, it's why Trump came out with a special, passport and way to come to the U.S. where they could, a large, huge donation. The billionaires could come to the U.S. and get out of the blackmail and all that stuff, like Maduro did. He actually wanted to get out of there. And so it's not hard for the U.S. with the technology now to get people out of there. And so that's why you're seeing, with the knowledge they have with the Golden Dome, foreseeing everything as it's going, why Trump is and the White Hats are always ahead of everything. Do Venezuela first before Iran, so you have the oil, and you get Cuba locked down before Iran, so that all those tankers coming in around Cuba and all the oil and all this is all in place. And it's just amazing to watch it all. And as it's picking up speed, it's going to go faster and faster. Once we actually get to the arrests and things, most of which have already happened, we know. I mean, people, on my Rumble are going, there's not a single arrest. I'm just like, did you not notice in his first term, all the people, from senators, congressmen, Hollywood stars with boots on them. And then the boot would be on the other foot, the another foot, the opposite foot later on. It was like, isn't that not obvious to you? They did not break their ankle or hurt their foot. It's changed size. That's a tracking is in there that they're under house arrest. And I mean, it's just really, really obvious, let alone the expansion of Gitmo, the huge courtroom, the size of a high school gymnasium, where they're going to have, you know, the videos for the trials as if they're happening now, and some that will be happening now. And, you know, you've got, it's a geometric curve. You've got to go drip by drip. And now it's like the faucet's going full blast and people don't see it. And it's like, you know, they're still, you know, all over Trump saying, oh, he's a dictator and he's this, and he's going to take over the world and all that. They would not be coming after him as hard as they have for so long if that were true. He's taking them out. You know, you look at the Rothschilds selling all their properties and auctioning off stuff they have had for generations. Oh, no way would that happen. And the Fed going underneath the Treasury? No way. And so, you know, you look at all of this going on for people that it's just, they got to be like an ostrich on a freeway with their head in a pothole. And it's 100 semis coming at them. It's like,
well, you know, man. Gene, it's just because people have been so conditioned that no matter what, it never, ever actually changed, right? And we're talking about generation after generation, going back to the 50s and 60s, corruption with the, you know, two-tier of a system, right? Even though we do it, never actually really panned out, right? It never really changed. Nobody ever really paid the consequences for their actions. And until so many people are like, I'll believe it finally when I see it, they don't see it when it's that subtle, the things that we see, the things that we understand. They don't see it until it comes out and it's going to be on the mainstream media and they start streaming it to people live. And then they're like, oh my God, it's really happening now. Because that's how conditioned they have had the majority of the population for so long that they just don't believe it's ever really gonna change. And because of that, because we're co-creators, that's why it has benefited the enemy, just because of that very thing, right? Because that's, you know, that's their belief, and because that's their belief, that's what they're co-creating in that reality. For so long it's been difficult for us to finally break through of it.
Captain, you just brought up such a great point, excuse me, Gene, about the conditioning and being co-creators, which, you know, Gene and I were talking about before you got into the studio about the whole psyop of the flat earth, right? And that was a conditioning, which it was really worked for a lot of people, which is why they can't see what, you know, we're talking about Artemis. And whenever you try to educate people on this, there's always that block. There's that block because, like you said, things could be real and fake at the same time. So, would you guys talk about that, like both moon landings and the base on the moon? Because I think that's really important. I don't hear it being talked about enough, but I see the block. There's such a block wall there that, you know, I think it needs to be talked about more.
So before you get started, Gene, because I want to kind of use a little bit of the terminologies that you're used, right? And that's like Operation Fishbowl, and basically where they said they created the scar that's in the freaking firmament, and that was first discovered in like 1600s, I think. You know? And so if that was the case, they weren't using, you know, They didn't create that then. And then the Earth is a lot bigger than what's been reported.
Yeah, they put that one out too. So, if you, like me, have sailed the world in, not sailed, so, well, we call it sail, but in a submarine, we have a sail, but it's not.
It's you're traversing the world.
Yes, I've, been way, way, way down to the Antarctic and way up to the Arctic. Um, 1 degree of latitude or longitude in any direction is 1 nautical mile, which is 6,000 feet. And if you're going at a certain speed, you can record knowing how much, current you have with you or against you, you can calculate how far you've gone. That's really obvious. So, but as far as going to Antarctica, there's 1,000+ people that go there a year as tourists. You can rent cruises, buy a sailboat if you want, sail around Antarctica, and they'll take you off on a little dinghy boat and go up on the place where there's no glaciers coming down, and you can literally hike up onto Antarctica. You could even hike if you want. People have backpacked, way in, and they're even having big planes that go to the pole in the Antarctic as well. And there are no fly zones there, but those are because of what's there, such as the entrance to the Earth, inside the Earth, and other bases and things and artifacts that they don't want people to know about yet. But
Pyramids, other
but if you do the basic, what Ptolemy did, I did it with some kids in a science class I was in with walkie-talkies, because there was no cell phones in the 70s and 60s. We, with a ruler, a yardstick, a protractor, so you can get your angles perfect 90 to the Earth and go it, across the city as far as you can get, and then time it out and mark and get it perpendicular to the Earth and measure the shadow. It's different. And you can calculate the size and the circumference of the Earth. And so it's really, really obvious that, it is pretty much what they've been saying all this time along. And, there are many cruises people can take and go around the Arctic. So now, as far as going to the moon, of course, we went there, but not like, as I said, the way they showed. That was Stanley Kubrick's movie. But they're not going to spend.
Why did they do that?
Because
I know, and we talked about it. I want you to tell, and we'll discuss it, because that's what people need to know, because that's how it gets. That's how it becomes a conspiracy theory, right?
Yes. Well, the reason is several-fold. The first reason is if you get there, you don't get there, you have a catastrophic event, the people would be extremely upset. So you don't want to put that kind of money in that era without tangible results. So you have a movie. Plus, they didn't know what they're going to hit, and so what's going to happen when they get there, which is with the craft, not what they showed you, but with a craft, they went there, and there were Alpha Draco ships lined up on the crater wall. So yeah, that wouldn't have boded well on national TV. That wouldn't be a good look. So they had that, and of course the NACIs had a base, like I said earlier, like in the movie Iron Sky. And now that's lunar base A, B. There's A, B, C, and then there's base on the back of the moon. There's a detention facility that's right on the edge of the back of the moon. During a 18-year transit of the moon back and forth, it shows 54% of its surface. So it periodically gets a view of the Earth. That's for the very high-profile people they want to keep alive in the deep state for information. And so with the technology, a person you don't need to torture people for information anymore. The nanotech that they can literally download somebody's mind. So go into the mind, find out whatever they're thinking, download all their information, their knowledge, everything else. The technology, again, is beyond belief. So the waterboarding and all that stuff it's no longer needed, and you can't hide any information. The deep state can't hide anything. So they make deals to keep their legacy, to protect family or the brotherhood or something. And the real high ones up that we don't even know the names are kept on the backside of the moon and some other places out on asteroids and things in our solar system. And so that is already been being done since Trump's first term.
So wasn't that base the initially was the German base and all of
Yes.
that that was on the backside of the moon? Wasn't that a part of the Antarctic Treaty about the transferring and the power of that, as well as the Mars bases that we have?
Yeah, it was the secret part of the treaty, of the Antarctic Treaty, with the base 211,
Mhm.
third and fourth and fifth Reich types. So
Right.
they got certain things. They have certain within every major organization, major company. They would have certain people installed that were fascists, as well as in our Congress or Senate, and periodically have a president like the Bushes, the sheriffs. So so we're a fascist country up until Trump got in.
Mhm.
And that's why you see fasci on the floor of the Congress on each side, and back of the Liberty Dime. Several states have fasci on their insignia for their state seal. And so that's showing the control. Plus, a lot of the missions that the space program had, like Voyager, was to see the growth by the deep state of the fourth and fifth Reich types. How much had they gotten out there? And they were freaked out of their mind. I mean, they had asteroids and moons and everything was there all over the place. They're like, oh my word. So they made another deal. And so now, with the deal the NACI's made with the Alpha Draco of having to have a prime Draco on every one of their Dark Fleet ships. They didn't like that at all. They're very proud people. And so they actually have broken free from that, as has a whole huge contingent of the Alpha Draco have broken as a fifth column. And so the Alliance of Free Worlds that is helping mankind on Earth, and the build out on the backside of the moon is now beyond belief. And, they help set up the quantum system and all of that, and all of this technologies and everything that's coming. It's going to be mind boggling as we go up that bell curve, that, geometric curve into disclosure, and big pharma and all this gets destroyed by the technology that comes out. That's why they didn't want that out, because you're talking about technology, their healing system, which is a sick system. It's to keep you sick as a pay cow. There's a cow that just, the sicker you keep it, the more you can sell stuff to it. You keep it sick, you poison it, you do everything, you just keep it alive barely. And
Keeping on Band-Aid, throwing Band-Aids at it just so they keep the money flowing, keep it just functioning and keeping it going down that path.
Yeah. And so once this system comes out, the med bed systems and all this other stuff, and the quality of life goes through the ceiling. And then they have, like Elon Musk with the robots and all of that, people will only work if they want to. The wealth will be so vast. I mean, everybody, if you look at your straw man, you're worth billions by the time you're in your 50s. There go, who would work? How would anything get done? Well, robots will do most of it, and they'll look human. And then you also will have people doing things that certain things only people could and should be doing, which is raising children. You might want to have your food grown by a human being, because there's an interaction at an energetic level, at the quantum level, between a person that is loving the plants and talking to the plants and working with the plants and cares about the plants, as opposed to just mechanized harvesting and growth. And so the plant is way more vibrant and powerful. And so all of these things are coming very, very soon and rapidly. People think it's, a lot of people think this is going to take, decades. I don't think so.
Nope.
Because it's just like anything. Once you start improving, it's very small at first, the growth. It's like, as martial arts, for example, as I was learning, the first few 4 or 5 years, I'm not really that amazing. I'm okay, but I'm probably not really good on the street in a real situation. Just enough to keep myself alive, maybe. But by the time you get to 10, 12 years in, if you're in a real training style, not like a dojo, but your ability start growing so fast you don't need an instructor anymore. The art itself starts teaching you. And so that's where we're headed. We're headed in a situation where we'll be learning so fast and things will be changing so fast that it'll just go astronomical, it'll go vertical, the changes. So the next generation that's already, in their single digit years now, the world they will be getting, we can't even conceive of it. We'll be on planets all over the galaxy, let alone probably other galaxies with, make Star Trek look pale. I mean, what you're seeing in Star Trek, that's pathetic technology. You have technology where, you can travel like that by Mach 5 or Warp 5, I mean, and that's slow. You could instantly be there. But, sometimes when you go on a road trip, it's not just, jump at a portal and be the other
About the
place.
journey sometimes.
Yeah, it's about the journey and the trip and what you find in between. So that's,
because that's what people don't know. We have actual gates from Earth to the moon, direct, to Mars, direct, to Saturn, direct, different places, direct.
Yes.
This Eden, Earth, was always a major gate hub, and our sun was another major portal gate, correct?
Yes. And then there's which are actually portals, what they call jump gates.
Yes.
So near most of your major airports, you have a Hilton hotel or something that the deep state had a jump gate in. And you can jump to various places from that gate with the portal.
Like in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Specific rooms.
Well, it's the elevator would go down. You'd hit a certain key code sequence in the elevator buttons, and it would go down, and you come out into an area where you could go into a jump gate. And depending on the timing and everything, you could get to the moon or Mars or Saturn or Ganymede or all these different places. And so that technology is old.
Yeah.
That was being built for, I think the first rendition of a jump gate was I think they call it the Trinitron. It's out at Indian Wells in near where they have the every year they have a big, huge conference. The largest freestanding piece of granite is out there. And this guy built a jump gate, and they came and gutted it and took all the technology from him, the deep state. But now, the Alliance has that, and humans have had that for a long time, and they have blink technology with the craft and everything. So,
So let's do this, Gene, because I said this very specifically, not several months ago, and this is before the Iran deal actually started going on, is that we have the technology. So like what you were talking about earlier about the super soldiers and the technology you have, that you could be. They have these little boxes. They're not even an inch. They're like a quarter of an inch squared, right? Little box. It's got these little quantum diamonds that are inside of them, and they spin so fast that they're like at the speed of light inside. They create a field around, and if you've got this on your person, you cannot be shot. You could shoot a bullet of 50 caliber at you, and it ain't hitting you. And it's like they have this kinds of technology that's out there that you as an individual could even have, that's interlaced into the super soldiers outfit, their gear. And that's why when they were talking about Venezuela and stuff, they were shooting at them and stuff, and nothing could hit them, nothing could do nothing to them. And it's like not only that, but it's like, okay, we've got all this technology. We've got all this stuff that we could actually shut down the power, shut down everything within a country, and then turn it back on. Because we did it multiple times several years ago, you remember. And the deal is that why are we messing around with that kind of conventional technology, because this is what it is, messing around with Iran when we could have knocked this shit out in a couple hours? Because I think that we could do that, and we've done a lot of it, but we had to blow some shit up and we had to do things the old school way.
Yeah, the old school way for, just because you can't, same, people say, why are we using rockets to go places if we have this?
Yep.
Because you can't put that out in front of the populace at this time until we have disclosure and all these things.
Because when they went and found that pilot, they talked about stuff that nobody even they could identify a single individual's heartbeat anywhere
Yes.
on the planet.
Yep. That's a nanodiamonds with graphene.
Yeah, that's
Graphite.
these nanodiamonds. That's what I'm talking about. Is like, and they got technology that will blow your freaking mind, people, but they're not using it. They're trying to make it as conventional as possible, but still being in 100% control. Would you agree?
Well, they are actually using it in Iran, some of it. So they have like a whole bunch of special forces that jumped out of a aircraft at night, no shoot.
I
And
know. That's what that technology does. That's what. So they're
yeah,
called the ghost soldiers.
yeah, and they plummet to the ground just before they get the round. It deaccelerates them. They land gently on their feet. Then it starts powering up behind them and propels them there till they're running like 90 miles an hour. Then they can see through the ground down to where the tunnel is. It opens up, it phase shifts them. So they run down into the ground, into the tunnel. Nothing can kill them. No particle weapons, no nothing. So,
So this
yeah,
So this actual special forces guy, he's like a really awesome dude. He was like, he saw these guys around, but he didn't know who they were and all that stuff. And then they went on this mission. They were up in the plane, and then all of a sudden they just jumped out the back of it. He's like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" It freaked him out. He's like, and then he was like, they jumped, they had their gear on and stuff, but they didn't have no parachute, no nothing. All of a sudden, they just jumped out of the freaking plane at a halo jump, right? And he's
yeah,
like, it freaked him out. And then, like 5 days later, he said he saw them all, and they were all
yep,
fine. And he was just like, "What?"
yep.
Oh,
And
it blew
those,
his mind because this dude's been in the special forces. I mean, he's like a really badass. I ain't gonna say who it is, but he was an awesome fucking sniper and stuff. And he said it blew his mind, and that's exactly what they were referred to as the Ghost Soldiers, because nobody knew who they were or what affiliation, because they never wear patches.
yes. So, that's where we're headed. Warfare is going to become impossible. When the whole world gets this, little bit by little bit. It's what Tesla had dreamed and actually facilitated. He actually jumped timelines and came back as crazy as this sounds. You'll read Ingersoll Lockwood and that stuff, about little Baron Trump and all that stuff. But he came back as Snowden, and he came back as what's the other one? Remember right now, but he made it possible so that we would have this technology and all of this now. And so it's just, like I said, a time when people, a lot of what people are seeing, it's just they still believe it. I mean, just what? Like this last assassination attempt, this guy runs through the security, and this only one person gets their gun out. One lady, the police, it gets 5 shots off. I'm like, nobody tackles this guy. Nobody puts themselves in their way. I mean, there would have, if that was real, there would have been a hail of bullets, and somebody
That's what
would
I
have
know.
tackled the
It's
guy
like if
down.
you don't
And
believe that this was a 100% setup, you
yeah,
are not.
and then of course, then they're talking about, well, that's the reason for the ballroom. That's the whole point of it. And then what's under the ballroom? Well, now we already have Senator, who saying
Yeah.
that Yeah, saying this is military stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, jump
exactly.
gate, jump gate,
Yeah,
along with
exactly. To
along with
freaking
a whole
anyone.
lot of technology that'll make it impossible for that stuff to happen in the White House at all. And it's just, it's just and of course Trump, was sitting there and he's just looking around like, yeah, okay, there he is. Okay, here it comes. Okay.
I
And of
know. And I,
course,
I was actually watching it when it happened live and I heard it. And I was telling Kelly, I was like, did that just happen? Did that just happen? And everybody's sitting around like no big deal here. And then all of a sudden you start seeing everybody freaking out. But he's just still standing there. He's just still sitting there like, what? Nothing's going on. It's like,
yeah. And of
come
course,
on,
the guy
man.
security pulls JD Vance's chair back. It doesn't get
Yeah.
between him and the shooter, pushes him down or nothing. I'm like, this guy should be fired if that were real.
So there's actually a remote viewer that I believe this girl big time because a lot of the things she said, she would not be able to know these unless she actually seen them, like you've seen, I've seen, because of the way she describes stuff. Her name is uh April Elizabeth, and she's a young girl, and she called it, man. She was like, "Oh yeah, they planned it. He was in on the room where they were actually planning this whole thing with him, and it's not him. I'm talking about Trump. And
Yeah,
Trump really wasn't for it, but he wasn't against it. But the thing was, is he was like more. They were more concerned that if it actually got out, that it would discredit anything else, right? And it was like, oh well, by the time that actually happens, it won't matter anyway. So,
yeah,
but the individual basically was already predispositioned for that kind of event because of his
yes.
ties, things he had said on the internet, so on and so forth. And they just manipulated the dude into doing something and they made it feasible,
Captain, I'm a
possible
little
for it all.
confused because when you and I talked about it, you said that they had planned this, meaning it was already planned to go into effect.
Yes.
And the
Mhm.
White Hats know about it, but have to let it happen.
Yeah, but then I
So,
found out that they were the ones that were planning it.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
because
white
I was
hats.
really confused when you were just talking. I'm like, you told me something different like 2 days ago.
Yeah, and that was before I found out that they were part of the planning.
They're the ones planning it that put
Yeah,
it together.
yeah, they put it together, Kelly. and,
Okay,
and not
because
necessarily in a bad way, because that's why nobody got hurt. That's why he didn't get shot. That's why he didn't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, if you, that guy, and why does he have a shotgun? I mean, that you can't really use that very well at a distance. And he runs to the lobby. I mean, he would have been obliterated, and if it were real, the number
Yeah,
of
he would
shots
have
he would have
been
been.
shot multiple times. He would have been dead,
Yeah,
and there would have been nothing else but just dead body
so,
there.
so this is what I wonder about. We have a lot of narrative with the crazy liberal people, and they are constantly saying that all these assassinations are fake, and I don't know what the purpose of is, like, going along with that narrative of it's almost like undermining our president. So I'm not sure I agree with the both of you because I analyzed every single like cabinet member and what they did and how they reacted in their faces. And if they all went to acting school for a long, long time, I might agree with you both. I don't know how that benefits.
They weren't in on it all.
not everybody in there's in on it, just a few. And also, we're not the target audience. We're people who are awake. The target audience is the regular people out there that watch CNN still. No one believe it's real what they're telling them. You know?
So let's take, for instance, Pete Hegseth. Would you think he would be let in?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, now if you watched him walk through that ballroom, like I said, unless he's been to acting classes all his life, he went into military mode and threat
That's
assessment.
training, Kelly.
That's military training.
Right. That's my point. So
That's his
when
training.
yeah, he's
Um,
training for a threat.
when you've
Well,
trained
it
like
doesn't
that in the
matter.
military, Kelly, I can tell you because I did 20 plus years. We do drills on the submarine, and you don't know if it's real or not. And even when you do know it's not real, you still go through it. And you know, the people that were below me, they didn't know it's real. They thought it was real because they go, "Wow, you have me fooled." I go, "No, I always act the same way every single time. So when it is real, you don't make a mistake. You're on point every single time. You do it the same way every single time based on the scenario. You follow the directives, you know, the manuals, everything. You do it precisely the same every time. So when it really happens, you're not messed up. You know, that's
So
why,
that's
you
a
know.
good point right there,
Mm-hmm.
that you practice so many times, and with it, say if it was a planned operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people in there that, like you said, were not aware, or you're saying
Right.
were not aware of the operation. When you do the operations, you have everybody aware of it so nobody gets hurt, right? So you're
No, no,
everybody's
No,
planning.
nobody's
no.
aware of it.
Nobody is.
Well, when they're
Only
not
the
aware of it, isn't that a huge risk for, like, innocent people getting hurt?
no,
No.
because you're controlling it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same on the submarine. I would run drills sometimes. I'd initiate something. And I tell the
We did it
captain,
on my
and
ship all the time.
yeah,
Actually, my company got pissed off at me because when I would do a man overboard drill, I actually did it for real.
yeah.
I jumped off the ship while we were running, and then I timed them. They didn't know that there was only one person on the ship that knew that I jumped.
So how does that benefit um President Trump and his um I guess his reputation as a leader who is trying to, you know, turn things over for the good, when there's an operation that all of, like you said, I told you on Blue Sky what's going on, how they're all calling him a liar, a faker, and all
It
this.
doesn't matter
Why doesn't that perception matter?
because
Because
go ahead, Gene.
you're going for the masses of people that are not awake and knowing. So, you know, it's obvious if you look at the way, like I said, that guy would have been killed, all this, those people were read in because, you know, the police lady that's shooting, those bullets should have killed him. To, you know, and she knows what's in her weapon. And, you know, I would do drills on the submarine that, oh, I would go into the captain. I'm going to run this. I'm going to do this. He goes, okay. And even the officer of the deck, nobody knew, just me and him. That's it. Nobody else knew it was a drill. And so you see what people really do that aren't read in. So, you know, when you have high skilled people, special forces trained, high level 20, you know, 15, 10, 20 years, um, more, they will control the situation so nobody gets hurt in their, you know, and all of that. But in, you know, most of that, the people that are reacting, you can tell the ones that are really reacting because they're in shock. They're in what's called black zone. When somebody is, they're not going to get hurt because they don't know what to do. They're just freaked out. They're in black zone. They kind of stunned at first, and then you can control that because you train to do that. They trained for decades to do that. Many, many, many years. They train every possible scenario, every possible thing. And, you know, it's to make it look like a certain, you know, yes, we need the ballroom. Yes, this is why. This is same with Butler, Pennsylvania. That was deep state hijacked by the White Hats. And so there were three shooters, and the guy that actually hit Trump's ear was on the water tower, I believe. or no, maybe it was the gym further away. There was three shooters: the water tower, the gym, and the other guy that they killed. And so that was totally controlled too. And yet, some things do go awry sometimes, but then also it made Trump, that probably made him president, to be honest with you. And you look at the picture that's being thrown up that looks like somebody smeared something. It's the picture of Butler, Pennsylvania, for this, and all of this that happened now. So it's comms and all kinds of things are going on. And, sometimes you have to have things that are so live, if you didn't get in the way of it, or you can't completely stop it, like Operation Warp Speed. You can't stop what the deep state's going to do. So what you do is you overtake it,
You
and
hijack it.
you control it, and you control
Right.
it so that
Yes,
it's not
I
in their
understand
hands. But still, you're going to have millions of people die,
Yeah.
but you're
I
not going
told
to
Kelly
have.
that technology of the little diamond box, the nano
Yes.
diamonds that are in the little box, that was what Trump had on that day. So they could have shot 10 shots at him and it wasn't going to hit him.
Yeah. Well,
So
not
now,
only.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Gene.
No, go ahead, Skelly.
Oh, I was just going to say, so that brings up another question that a lot of people ask is, was that even Trump? Because, we know he has doppelgangers, right? They know they're not going to put him at risk, but possibly with that technology, which I had never heard of, Captain, until you told me about it the other day. Possibly with that technology, it's not as unsafe as people think. So,
That's right.
do you believe that was him at Butler or the other night?
No.
We haven't seen Trump in public since 2018.
And so the reason that it's not him is because he is safe, but the image of him still has to be protected, Kelly.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I explained that too. Like it didn't matter if it was him or not.
That's
If
correct.
that
That the
image
image
was
of him has to stay
assassinated,
safe.
would all hell will break out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
So that's why.
everything's about timing and control. So, like Netanyahu was killed, he's dead, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they can't show that yet because it's not. It's like it's not in time in the movie. You have to have this play out in a certain way for people. So this is the same way. So with the technology they have, the mask they have now is just a cream, like a gel. You can smear it on yourself, and it has nanodiamonds and graphene and other stuff in it, and it receives a 3D holographic, whatever you want to look like. I mean, you could look like Captain Kyle and
It can
sound like
change like
Captain
that.
Kyle.
Just by them changing the frequency of it, it can change.
Yep. You could even look like a door. It's just like, the technology's that advanced now. So Trump has been, that's why they don't kill him, the deep state, because they have people that can take somebody out at 8 miles. If with what he's doing to them, tearing down the financial system, taking over. I mean, that's why they have King Charles going to charm Trump, try to charm him. Please don't get rid of us and don't get rid of me and all this stuff. But there's a lot of symbology, like we were talking earlier about the beekeeper, that he's done. He's taken out already. It's already been done. And so it's only a matter of time until it's part of the movie to see that actually happen, just like with the Queen. She was gone a long time before she got to the palace and couldn't get in the gate. That wasn't her. That was central casting. And so you get all these actors that have been trained for years and years, but then you also have people that are wearing that gel, and it also keeps them so like Captain Kyle saying with the nanodiamonds and that, so they can't be hurt, because you've got to protect the image for the people. Because if they do see him obviously get his, like Kennedy, where he gets his, head, explodes, they're going to go not believe that they saved him. And so he would be gone. But he's been in Cheyenne Mountain with maybe two exceptions, because with what he's doing to the deep state, they would be so needing to get rid of him, they would blow the building up. They would hit it with a missile or put explosives or something, use technology, some poison, something, and they would just destroy everybody there. And so this is the way in which you don't have that kind of thing happen. And so the white hats are controlling all of this, let alone the fact that they have things like, looking glass and that, so and remote viewers that can see the future and all kinds of stuff that
Oh
human,
yeah.
yeah.
So a
So,
lot of these remote viewers, when they go into these things, they actually see other remote viewers there.
yeah,
And it's
So
kind of
so
like, and
guys,
then whenever it's a place that they're not supposed to be, sometimes that can get kind of fishy, and then that's not good. But there are some technologies that they have that are like a Faraday cage, but it's not. I don't even know how to explain it, but even remote viewers can't get into it.
yeah. We had that in the military where we have certain skiffs. I can't even say the name yet, what it's called, but it keeps remote viewers from getting in. And also, even
Yeah.
back in the 80s and 90s, the Soviets had technology where they could download your computer and everything on it. And you, without, even connecting to your system, they could just, even if it was turned off, they could download everything in it. So
And
that's,
yeah, like you were saying, it can be actually to where a lot of times they thought that it was safe if you were uh, air gapped away from the internet, meaning that you weren't connected to the internet, right? Well, that's not true. They can still like get to it because just like the technology we were talking about earlier, you don't have to be connected for them to actually have access to any of it. And it's like they've got these super magnets, even that these super magnets are the size of that right there. And they're more powerful than any magnet you've ever seen in your entire life.
yeah, because it's capturing light and photons and spinning. They're at the speed of light, and it's spinning them. So it's a magnet that's so powerful it can lift an aircraft. It could lift a
Yeah. And it's that
767.
big.
Yeah, it's the size of those little tiny hard what do you call it, flash drives you get now.
Yeah, there's little baby things, just like about that big, and it's like that can lift an entire aircraft and
Yep.
keep it in complete control.
so guys, I have another question. And I'm going to push back a little bit on stuff because I'm in this every day and I see a lot of the different narratives coming and going. And, it's just kind of my job because of what I'm doing for Captain on his channel. So this position of saying everything's fake or scripted, it kind there's kind of a I don't know. A lot
It's
of
not,
people
but
wait,
it
wait,
is, Kelly.
let me finish here and just make my point. Um, there's been a lot of people that lost their lives, right? With different things, with the vaccines and then financial things, losing their homes, their jobs, and then you have soldiers that have lost their lives in the war we've been fighting. So when people get the idea of everything scripted and fake, I'm not sure how to answer people who really have been suffering, or the lives that have been lost, or parents that have lost their sons and daughters in war.
Well, that's easy because the deep state has infiltrated every organization on earth. If you have an organization that has 50, 60 people and it's important to the world, they'll have infiltrated it. And so you don't know who's infiltrated. You might be somebody you would think you could trust beyond belief, and they would be deep state Satanists. And so you can't script that out. And certain things are, like the jab. That was going to happen, and they had a plan of one virus after another until we're all in FEMA camps. They would be seclusion camps for those infected. In other words, a FEMA camp, death camps, all kinds of things. And that would have been the end of most of the world. There would have been maybe a few 100 million people left. So you have that option, or you have the option to roll it out faster than they can get all the jabs they have. They have to put saline solution, all kinds of stuff, and you lose 1 billion people instead of 8 billion people.
And I understand that. It's the lesser of two evils. I
Yeah.
understand that.
And that goes the same thing with any of these things, like the wars, like what's happening in Ukraine or what's happening in Iran or what happened, you know, in Venezuela. Yes, some of the Cubans guarding Maduro, quite a few of them got killed. That's the nature of, and that's what we're leaving behind. But in the process of that, people will die, and sometimes good people will die. It is how the war is, and some of this stuff will affect good people, the stuff
So
that,
how do people decipher what is fake and what's not, especially with so much AI these days?
oh, yeah.
It's really hard, I think, for people to discern what
But
is
I
fake and
answered you
what's
that.
not, especially when you constantly hear it's a movie, sit back, enjoy the show, everything's fake, everything's scripted. That gets confusing for the especially the people we're trying to reach. Like we've got somebody did a really great diagram last night on their show where there was this little portion at the bottom where, it's a bunch of OG anons sitting around laughing about, masks and fake people and things like that and boots. And we know all that, right? But then you've got second, that second row, which is a little bit larger of the anons that are decoding things and trying to figure things out that way. And then you've got this huge portion at the top that we're trying to reach. And when that smaller portion at the bottom is continually telling them everything is fake, how are we going to be reaching that big portion at the top? Does that make sense?
How did how do we reach them? You don't. You give them truth, and the events actually wake them up. It's the
Yep.
events.
Yep. The series of events and what happens as it happens. It's why Trump, the Epstein files, we're talking about that. That's a psyop. That's, you got to make the people demand it. And you got to make that, because if he hands it out, then they go, it's fake, it's not real. But if he says it and then the people demand it, especially the black hats demand it, and the Satanists demand it, and the Demists demand it, and they get it out, and then Elon goes, oh, he's saying that because he's in it. Yeah, because Epstein hated him. He's because he had him kicked out of Mar-a-Lago, had him arrested, all kinds of things. So that's the same way with you've got Nick Shirley, this young man who's going around showing all of this corruption in Minnesota and now California, and next will be Texas. The FBI has all that, but they can't come out and say that. You've got to have a young person who's revealing it as a people
They
of
made him.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a person. He's a person. The target audience can focus and say that's real. See, it's just a regular guy. It's
Yeah.
not the government handing us the same garbage, made up garbage. It's not a movie. It's this. No, this is just a regular guy. He's a very nice looking young man. He's doing all this stuff. And that's how this will continue to go out. You're going to have people that look like regular, everyday people, that you're going to have events, you're going to have situations, you're going to have things come out bit by bit by bit, where regular everyday people will come out and say it. And so they can identify with that. And then
Yeah, I
eventually
totally
it'll come
agree with
out to
you.
where the media itself will come out and say, okay, we were wrong. It was this. CNN, Fox, NBC, MSNBC, ABC,
They're going to be
CBS, all of
forced.
that, because that's the only thing they're going to believe. They're
Yeah,
not going
which
to.
they are starting to do with this Nick Shirley. And immediately I looked him up on X, and now he's supposed to be 23 years old, right? So
Yeah.
he joins on in January of Trump's first term. He joins X. So now, how young is he then?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I figured that he had to be, part of that op, and that's good. That's
They're
way too.
providing the money,
Yeah.
the resources,
Yep.
and the direction for him to do and the protection
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
him to do what he's doing.
Because you don't go down to a cartel and walk in there with all these and not get shot to pieces.
Yeah.
The cartels were told, you shoot him and we will eradicate you all.
Yeah.
You let him go in, you let him do this, you let it, But, the average person out there, they'll believe that, as insane as that sounds, that, hell, he walked right in there and they just, because he had something on him and, he didn't, but there was something, holding over their head. Yeah.
On
So,
over all of them.
over all of them. Right.
And so
And just like what they understand, we won't just eradicate you. We'll eradicate
we'll
your families, your
eradicate
children, your
everything in
property.
existence about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything will be destroyed.
And
Everyone
so,
will be destroyed. So
yeah.
you go along and you play with this. And so it's the same thing, and
So how
in
do
a,
you think, Kelly, when we talk about this, that this works into Trump's world tour? And then you talk about the internet and everything else. And then I told you about, what happened when Q started posting. That was the same time as the incident in Las Vegas, and the
Hmm.
target in Las Vegas was Ben Solomon. But what did Ben Solomon do after that? He dedicated himself completely to the movement, but he also took over all of the social media.
Hmm.
So do they have control over everything? Absolutely, they have control of everything. But they have to force the narrative into the public space in a controlled manner with a backstop of exactly what their plans were to destroy us.
So when you say they have control of everything, the other day you said to an extent. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so you've got outliers. Outliers means individuals that you don't necessarily have control over, that are not the overall, like say the company narrative, things of that nature, where anyone can post anything. But is that completely controlled or not? To a certain degree, because anything that's put out there can be stopped and then reversed immediately.
Yeah,
They're
like I
allowing
do
it to
think
happen.
they're starting to take down a lot of these paid influencers. I kind of see that like on X, they're starting to lose their accounts or lose their monetization.
So that's all a part of the situation. Like I said, there's going to be a divide. This all has to happen. Why? Because there's the way things are connected. But when Trump continuously calls out central casting, how many times has he done it in the last month?
Right.
And
yeah,
it's not, so it's really not about, and this is the hardest part of this. It's not, this is why I don't care about monetization, this or anything else, because none of this matters for me to be profiting off of this thing of what's going on. It's about staying true to the word and helping people when they wake up to a certain degree, and lead them when the events actually happen, so that they can have some clarity in it. Because all of the noise and nonsense that are out there, and all the people that are out there for clickbait and making money, and they're patriots, whatever, I don't care. But the deal is that the events is what's going to bitch slap people to wake them up. How many times have I said it's got to get to the precipice to where enough is enough? And what did you just hear in Trump and what was just there? Getting to enough is enough.
Yeah. So, Gene, what do you think that precipice is going to be? Gene?
Yeah, I'm contemplating it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if you heard me. Take your time.
Yeah, for the target audience, it's varied because you got people on degrees of intelligence and degrees of mind control, and how you got to hit a critical mass when it becomes, the hundredth monkey essentially, and people wake up. But there will be people that'll never be. There will never be enough. They will always say no, 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 no. They just won't believe it. When we were talking about flat Earth, for example, I mean, you could take them out in space and show the Earth. You're mind controlling me. It is a hologram, or this is you're hypnotized me, or you know. I mean, there's people you can't wake up. They'll wake up when they die and leave their body. I guarantee you that. When you see what's out there or in there, then they will wake up. But it will, for the average person, it's going to have to, the Epstein files is one of the most powerful tools possible. And then as it's starting to, it has to happen organically, trickle out about what is really in the jab, with, for example, Dr. Mahalsias showing the blinking lights and all of that. And now Kerry Kingston and other people are saying it had this tech and it can actually, hack into your brain and all this other stuff. And they go, that doesn't, But when they actually start to experience some of that, and that is the deep state actually kind of helping in the way they don't realize. And I know it's grueling and it's, to have that happening. And for those that are targeted and everybody that is shed on. And so everybody has some of that happening to them to some degree or more. And so, as that comes out and trickles and more information comes out, then people will get upset. And once they said, enough is enough, I've had it, do something, make it happen now. And so it's going to be mostly from the young people, from like the 9, 14, 20s, like that are looking at the Epstein stuff as they get up into out in the world and doing things. That's gonna make, and they're going to actually influence the parents and the other generations older than them. And so, because the older generations are too mind controlled, when you're talking 30, 40s, and 50s, most of those people, you're not going to wake them up until they get woke up by other people that show them that they trust and they love. And so, to say when is that going to happen, again, I can't give dates or what will be the tipping point. It's too complicated. The movie is so complicated. I'm firmly believe the plan is by God, because it's so complicated. If you look at Colonel Bossie on Stevens Corner and he showed all the lines of force and different things and outlaid a basic plan, it just for one area, it was beyond complicated. It was to the point where only God could have that complication under. Yes.
Gene, I was talking to Kelly the other day, and this is what a lot of people don't know, is that all of these countries are wargaming right now, and not just in a conference room, but actually out preparing for a standoff.
For a what?
Standoff. Europe is actually doing actual drills and stuff for an invasion, and even our military is basically saying potentially that they're preparing for a war, but not the war we're actually in.
Oh yeah, that's going to be the thing that's going to cause people to wake up. You're right. That's it. I forgot about that. A near death experience, a near nuclear war, where you get
prepared right now by the European nation, by NATO countries, and they're actually wargaming it on the streets right now with military equipment.
Yeah. Once that happens, then when that gets diffused, then people will go, wow, we can't do this.
This is how close we were.
Yeah, we were that close. So yeah, that's when that event occurs. When that event occurs, I don't know, but it is
backstopped.
So,
Yeah.
would we consider that to be fake or real? Because a lot of times, and guys, I'm just trying to tell you from the perspective of all the comments in our chat channel, and I see them in other posts too, because I always try to get a read and a vibe on the people to kind of judge for myself how far along are we here, right? And I know Captain doesn't want to read comments at all or get into all that, but I kind of let, so that's what I'm trying to ask you from that perspective. Um, how will people know what's real, or is that all going to be called fake, or they're not going to believe it's happening? You know what I mean? Like, how do they know what's real and what's not?
Yeah, it's real up until the point they stop it. The deep
Yes.
state
And
is going to go and
yeah.
try to do it. And they
So
just like warp speed, they certain things have to happen. You can't stop it, but you can stop it from going to its conclusion.
and then so when I say that it's real, but it's backstopped, that means that it can't get to that place.
Yes.
But it is going to be confrontational. It's That's what brings it to reality to people. If not, then you're not gonna. Why did you think I said that when we go to Iran, we've got to blow shit up and things have to be destroyed that way? For that
Yeah.
very reason, because we could actually go in there and shut it down and do the things just like they did in Venezuela. But
Yeah.
the
And again,
outcome would
this
not
goes
serve it.
Yeah, this goes into you can't control absolutely everything. So you will have Islamic terrorists if you don't do that, coming to this country and doing all kinds of stuff and
Yes.
all over the world. So there, you can't control at this point every single thing that's happening on Earth with every single person, and that can cause death and fatality. So you have to have it real in their home country. You got to take the mullahs out for real. You got to take the Ayatollah out for real. I mean, you got to show him dead. What they showed you dead was he was dead before that. You know, you don't dig through a blown up building and find his body and go, oh, here's his body. I mean,
4 hours later, and he's dead. We know it.
yeah, he
So
was dead in the dumb when they did Epic Fury, and that event took place, and they took out the black rock under there, and it took a shock wave took out his dumb. He was dead then. But you got to make it so that people see it and they go, "Oh yeah, okay." And the mullahs got to, the deep state has got to have happened to them what they've been doing to the world for a long, long time. It says you want to convert as many of them as possible. And you want to force the ones to play right that you can. Because when you flip somebody to your side, you're up two. But if you eliminate them, you're up one. So when you convert, you flip hat somebody, even if it's, through force and coercion and whatever to save their legacy or whatever it is, you're up two. You've gained two because you got somebody on, and you can't rebuild the entire world. So, you look at Zuckerberg going through the White House, he looked pretty freaking miserable. He's like, oh, I got to play this role and I hate this. And it's, and he's not shapeshifting or anything. He's just, this is terrible. But you can't rebuild all the internet and all the industries and all of this. You got to use what they built and change it over. And that goes with people too, even if they're dark hats. You got to change who you can and, give them a chance to come around, but absolutely completely monitor them at the same time. And then you've got to use the system to some degree. You can't, the financial system, you got to rebuild that, but you can't rebuild every single thing on earth. So you've got to use a lot of what's there. Like you can't rewrite all the programming for the internet and all of this stuff. And, I mean, that's insane. And so you will have to convert the world as it goes. The same thing with, 0 point energy and fossil fuels and which way do you go and what, well, you're going to use oil still to make plastics and these things until you're printing out and you're getting higher technology stuff that isn't so detrimental to health with the microplastics and all that. So, there's a conversion that has to happen organically for people to see that and witness that, but also because there's certain things there's limits to what can and can't be done. And so that's where we are now. Is they're gamed all this out. It's all gamed out, and they're going to go step by step, and it's going to go out, logarithmically in a geometric curve. It's going to take off and go faster and faster and faster, and but at the same time, you can't do certain things in before their time. You can't like come out with the med beds all over, and you would destroy the economies of the world, and you'd have anarchy and civil wars and all kinds of things. It's got to come out in certain stages at certain points. The same thing with the Epstein files, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then everything has to slowly progress to where people get used to that speed. Then you increase the speed, and you keep going faster and faster and faster.
And Kelly, your role in dealing with those individuals over time will change easier and easier and more separated, if you understand that, what I mean by that.
Do I understand that? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
No.
Okay. It will be easier for those that wake up. Because why? Because things are happening and they're exponentially growing quicker and quicker. And those that won't believe never will believe. And they're being separated to a further and further place away from your reality.
Okay. Yes, now I understand.
It's like you go, the separation becomes so far that you never interact with them ever again.
Well,
yeah, you get to I experienced this in martial arts. I had a student, I took him up to a brown belt, a real brown belt, not like most dojos. I don't do dojo stuff. Took him 18 years to get there. And then I said, I'm going to do a drive about all over the country and we're going to start doing real training. And he goes, this hasn't been real yet? And he'd already had, broken bones and broken stuff from me and my instructor too. And I go, no. What are you talking about? I'm talking about, essentially like we've been talking about, bending space and time. And he'd been on backpacks with me where we had moved they moved through time, and Civil War guys came riding by us and stuff, that just at the end of the Civil War, they have all the gear and everything. It's brand spanking new. You can smell the tanning still in the barrels for their gunpowder, for their black powder. And all of this, and you can see the oil slickers, still smell the oil, and it's all brand new. And he'd seen that kind of stuff, and that terrified him. He said, he thought about it for a little while, about a month, and he said, I can't do this. If that hasn't been real, what we've done, I'm done. I just want to go back to being normal. I go, I hate to inform you, you will never be normal again. Because you've gone too far. 18 years in, you got the genie out of the bottle, but now you're going to let the genie run rampant.
Yeah, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle because
right.
Guess what? Everything happens simultaneously. That's why it's so important to live in the now and understand what the now means. Is why? Because the past, the present, and the future are all simultaneously happening right now.
Yeah. So, just like with his situation, there'll be people that get to that point and they just said, I can't do this and I want to go back to like the Amish. I want to go become Amish. Yeah. And that'll be available. There'll be people that don't want to go and they can go out and live the life that they had. And there'll be people living in cities that are holographic, tangible, holographic cities. And, it just depends. I don't want to live that way. I would love to live out in the country, and have a little place and that stuff, but it all depends on the person. Everybody's unique and different, and there'll be people that just can't do it. And then there'll be people that will engage and go take it many stages beyond where we are. So that's where we are. That's where we're headed.
Yeah, so I hope that helps some people out there, and I hope that we answered a lot of your questions, Kelly, and a lot of
Well, they're
questions that
not
people.
necessarily my questions. It's
No, no, I
questions
didn't mean it like
yeah,
that.
I
I
see
didn't
out,
mean it like
out
that.
in the public all the time that,
Mhm.
I don't know how to answer to them. So I'm just coming to
No,
counsel with
that's what I
you guys.
meant. Not that they're your questions, but the questions that you had provided for us.
Yeah.
You know, what you wanted to deal with, right? That's what I meant. Because you have a question, you take it straight to me,
Yeah, I do.
which that people don't have that opportunity. So I get it. And sometimes you'll call me up and we intentionally we're supposed to be on the phone for maybe 2 minutes and talk for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So people don't have that access.
I don't kind of like now.
Exactly.
And Gene, I'm sorry we kept you so long, but I think it's
Yeah.
been a great conversation.
Yeah. So we'll call this one a wrap.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, Gene. Let's do it again soon. And
Sounds good.
all right, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope we helped you, and I hope we shed some light on those things that are basically trying to be um, covered up and manipulated out there in the public eye. And trust me, things are not as they appear. I guarantee that. Love you guys. Good night.
Good
All
night,
right.
everyone.
God bless.
Gene.
Thank you.
Kelly, you killed the recording.